Hey friends, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network, and today I want to share a little bit of insight into those who have inspired me and shifted my paradigm. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com so you can stay up to date with all of our latest content. Of course, scroll down here and subscribe to our newsletter. And if you like my work, if you enjoy what we're doing here, I want to remind you guys that this is completely user, listener, supporter funded, and you can sign up at patreon.com/Derrick Broze. You can find all that info in the description below the video. You can also sign up on Bitbacker, or if you wanted to contribute a one-time payment via PayPal, you can also do that. Yeah, I just want to let you guys know that. No pressure, of course, but if you want to fund my work and help me continue, it would be much appreciated. So let's get into this. What I wanted to talk about today is something that just popped in my head over the last couple days. I know that many of you pay attention to my work and say that you take inspiration from my work and the things that I share, but I thought it might be helpful or interesting, maybe not, we'll see, to share the people who have inspired me over the years, and again, who have shifted my paradigm. Obviously, I'm not going to list every single person who's ever inspired me throughout my life, but as far as, let's say, the last decade of my life, or maybe the last 10 to 15 years, which are the part of my life that have included going to prison and shifting my personal life, getting more involved in my spirituality and my personal healing, and then waking up to activism and a lot of the things going on in the world, getting into journalism, getting into anarchism, public speaking, all the things that you know me for. These are the people who have inspired and helped me along the way. So let's go ahead and check it out. First thing I want to say, one of the first people, one of the first things would be the Buddha. And I don't consider myself to be a Buddhist. I don't really like to wear too many labels. But while I was in prison, some of you know, while I was locked up, actually while I was waiting to get shipped to prison, I discovered the practice of Buddhism just through a synchronicity, read a verse from the Dhammapada, which is what we're looking at right here. The Dhammapada is a collection of verses from the Buddha, and it's sometimes known as the Buddhist Bible. It's just, these paired verses, different sayings, and they're really inspirational, and I took a lot from them. And I read one of those verses in the newspaper, got really inspired, wanted to learn more, and had my grandmother send me more and more information, more chapters a day, and then eventually I was sent a book on meditation, specifically about Buddhist meditation, and even more specifically Zen meditation. And so I started to learn about that, and that was my first real deep dive into what meditation was. And since then, I've experimented with other types of meditations and other types of spirituality, specifically native spirituality, which is where my family comes from. But Buddhism was really the beginning for me, the deep dive into who I am and what I was doing, and learning from the wisdom of the Buddha. And I think Buddha is one of many, many teachers out there that have appeared throughout history. And his sayings, his verses in the Dhammapada were very inspirational to me. Along with that, a man by the name of Bodhidharma was a Buddhist monk who is credited for bringing Zen Buddhism or Chan Buddhism, depending on whether you're using the Chinese references or what language, the Japanese, who brought Chan or Zen to the rest of the world, and then it slowly made its way to the Western world. And he also was a very inspiring person. And like many of these people, we don't know the true history, if the stories about them are accurate, or if they're kind of an amalgamation of multiple different characters from history. Either way, the sayings and teachings attributed to him were quite inspirational to me, and I appreciate his story. So yeah, definitely in the early days when I was locked up, before I ever got into activism, these two, Buddha and the Dhammapada, and Bodhidharma and Zen Buddhism, were really, really part of my shift inwards. And then a couple years later, when I got out of back and forth in prison and I came out, I read a book by this man, Jim Marrs, which was called Rule by Secrecy. He's written actually several books. I've read most of them, except for the last couple. He actually died back in summer of 2017, so just almost 2 years ago. And yeah, he wrote so many just exposés on deep history, what's now known as the deep state. He talked about the JFK assassination. He talked about UFOs. He talked about the New World Order. He talked about all kinds of different things, and I really appreciated his work quite a bit. And I was actually lucky enough. You can go to our website and search Jim Mars, and you can see that I've interviewed him twice. I think there might have been a third interview, but at least two times on a variety of topics: ancient aliens, Israel, 9/11, population control, a number of different issues. And I've met him a few different times over the years before he passed away, and that was really awesome for me. And I was able to actually get his book, Rule by Secrecy, which you can see right here. I found this C-SPAN actually back in 2001. Just before 9/11, Jim Mars was on C-SPAN on cable TV talking about rule by secrecy, the hidden history that connects the Trilateral Commission, the Freemasons, and the Great Pyramids. And it's kind of like a grand conspiracy of all conspiracies. And whether or not you necessarily buy into all of it, it's definitely an eye-opener. And for me at that time, it really did shift my paradigm quite a bit. And I had the opportunity to meet Jim and to tell him that and get him to sign Rule by Secrecy because that played such a powerful role. You know, you may have heard me tell this story that once I started to question things, I read Rule by Secrecy, and then I read Revolution, a Manifesto by Ron Paul, and then I also watched an Alex Jones documentary called Endgame. I think Alex Jones played less of an influence on my work. I was kind of inspired by him for maybe a week or two, a couple of weeks before I realized that, you know, there were some things that just didn't fit with me. But Jim Mars' Rule by Secrecy and Ron Paul, his Revolution Manifesto, I read both of them within a week of each other, and it felt like with Jim Mars, I was getting the kind of conspiratorial side of history, and with Ron Paul, it was like this politician that was speaking truth and speaking of liberty and just speaking like an alternative view that I had never heard of. And it was, I don't know, it was really this awesome just experience to have both of those books come into my life. And then again, to meet Jim Mars. And then within a couple of weeks of me reading this, I was like, whoa, Ron Paul's speaking at the University of Houston. I'm going to go there and listen to him speak. And I heard him speak, and I was super inspired by that. And yeah, those two experiences, again, shifted my paradigm. These days, I still appreciate Ron Paul. You know, I don't hang on his every word. I think there are potential reasons to be critical of him that people have brought up over the years. But I won't deny that his book, Revolution Manifesto, and his In the Fed book, and just his talks were like really refreshing to me at the time, and helped shift my paradigm to a new direction. And I'm thankful for that to this day. And of course, another person who played just a magnificent instrumental role in shifting my paradigm to this day still would be Samuel Konkin III, who, if you've been on this channel before, you guys have heard me talk about him before. And if you go to our website and just search Konkin, as I have done here, you're going to find at least 4 or 5 pages of work that reference him, including the fact that I'm finishing his unfinished book, Counter Economics. You can find this video I did, Who is Samuel Konkin III and What is Agorism, and countless essays that I've done that explore his work, and I've tried to take his ideas and update them for the digital age and bring them to more people. And on that note, one of the things I've realized is that his writing can be a bit dry and kind of, I think, off-putting to some people because he was really kind of an academic and had a way of writing that could be difficult to make it through. I find it to be intriguing and interesting, but I try to take his work and make it easier for people to digest because I do know it can be difficult to make it through some of his writings. But he also died in 2004, and of course he was the founder, the creator, the discoverer of the philosophy of agorism and the science of counter economics, which I've talked quite a bit about in my books and in my videos and things of that sort. So yeah, definitely another person that continues to inspire me. And along with that, Carl Hess was really awesome guy who was part of the libertarian movement of the 60s and 70s as well, and the 80s up until his death in 1994. And he had a really interesting career. He was like a speechwriter for Barry Goldwater, and then he went to like the New Left in the 60s and kind of became more of like a radical left-wing activist. And then he, you know, embraced more like market anarchism, free market anarchism, and worked with the libertarians and things like that. And he also resisted taxes and just so many interesting aspects of his life. And one of the things that I'm most inspired by, which we talk about in my book, Manifesto of the Free Humans, is his time in the Adams Morgan neighborhood of DC, where in the, I believe it was the 70s, he went into one of the poorest neighborhoods, a predominantly African-American black neighborhood, and came in there and just worked with the locals and created, you know, basement gardens and aquaponics and solar panels on the roofs and they were producing all kinds of food, and he talked a lot about what he called appropriate technology, which is kind of like the predecessor to what we call permaculture in some ways. And just yeah, a lot of interesting ideas. But he was, like most of the people I'm inspired by, solutions based, actually trying to take steps in his life to create more freedom for himself and for other people. And was not just, talking about freedom and giving speeches and writing books. He did write some books and things like that, but was mainly focused on how do we actually achieve this? How do we accomplish this? And again, we take huge inspiration from him and Samuel Konkin in our work. Particularly this essay right here, Vertical and Horizontal Agorism, which can be found on the Conscious Resistance website or in my third book, Manifesto of the Free Humans, and it talks more about the synthesis of Karl Hess and Samuel Konkin's work. Again, very inspiring to me. And also we mentioned Karl Hess in this video, What is Anarchism Without Adjectives or Without Hyphens, which is partially based on an essay by Karl Hess called Anarchism Without Hyphens that he wrote in 1980, which is linked right here. And I highly, highly recommend that. Very interesting for those who want to understand anarchism better and who sometimes come into this fold of anarchism and all of a sudden you realize there's all these different labels and you're like, what the heck are all these different schools of thought or these other labels? It's like, oh, I thought I got into anarchism and freedom because we were, past the left-right paradigm, and then you realize there's even more labels. Well, this essay can help you decipher some of that. And just a few more kind of historical anarchists, American anarchists, individuals anarchists who have inspired me. And again, these videos can be found on the Conscious Resistance website or YouTube channel. This video, Who is Benjamin Tucker? It's just me breaking down the life of Benjamin Tucker, who he was, what he did during his life, who he inspired, and also who is Lysander Spooner, another historical individualist anarchist who was a lawyer, an abolitionist, an author, did a lot of great things, and he also ran various newsletters, as did Benjamin Tucker. Benjamin Tucker ran the most well-known Liberty is called Liberty, the most well-known newsletter of the time. So Benjamin Tucker, Lysander Spooner, and then of course Josiah Warren, who was sometimes known as America's first individualist anarchist. And I referenced some of his works here and some of the books that talk about him. And again, he's was a huge inspiration for Manifesto of the Free Humans, because in that book where I first outline the idea, my intention to launch an intentional community in the coming years, much of it was inspired by his work and the way that he ran his communities and just his idea of the sovereignty of the individual. Again, a big part in shifting my paradigm and just being inspired by people who've come before me. And sometimes when we're looking for inspiration or we're looking for ideas, we think we have to be the first one to create it. And sometimes we do. Sometimes we have to really dig deep and create brand new ideas that haven't been done before. But even in that process, we can look to the past and learn from those who've come before us, because the beauty of the age we live in is we have technology that has never been seen before. And obviously you guys know I understand the downsides of technology, but we have the ability to use the internet and research tools and learn from people from the past. So we have all the knowledge from the past plus technology that they never had before. So I really take inspiration from those from the past and try to update it and bring it into the present. Now, these last couple people here who are inspiring to me are a little bit different. I've talked here about Buddhism and about Jim Marrs and Ron Paul, kind of those who woke me up to the politics and the conspiracies of the world, and the Buddhist, the meditation kind of waking me up to my own nature. And then Samuel Konkin, Karl Hess, and all these anarchists who helped me understand anarchism better and agorism and just getting off the grid and all those kinds of things, community organizing. But these two last gentlemen here are very inspirational to me in regards to the environment and sustainability and, again, community building. First one would be Rob Greenfield, and I actually have talked to him several times. His website is right there, robgreenfield.tv. He calls himself an adventurer, an activist, a humanitarian. He's got a YouTube channel. He's got, Instagram and all that kind of stuff, and he's been known for doing these really extreme stunts in the past, riding his bicycle, although a bamboo bicycle across the US, riding down to South America, traveling with like only a passport or very little money and things like that, and doing these extreme stunts to try to get people to be inspired to take their own steps. He also did something called Trash Me, where he literally wore all the trash that he accumulated trying to live like the average American over a month's time. And you can kind of see in this picture here, he's wearing a bunch of trash. And he does these extreme stunts again to inspire people to take some type of action. And he did inspire me. I met him, I first discovered him, I think in 2015 or 2016. He sent me his book called Dude Making a Difference. And it was just, I just read through it so quickly. It was really awesome. It's basically like his journal, traveling the country and dumpster diving and just doing all these great things. And yeah, I'd already taken my own kind of cross country bicycle tour and was just felt really connected to Rob. And he also inspired us to, on our tours, the two US tours that I've done, the Decentralize Your Life tour, the Liberate Your Mind tour, for us to collect our own trash and to save it as we travel to try to reduce our waste and to promote a low waste lifestyle, close to a zero waste lifestyle as possible. That inspiration came from Rob, and also again in Manifesto of the Free Humans, he helped me look into this idea of like incorporating sustainability and permaculture into the community that I want to build, focused on not just the sovereignty of the individual and the self-ownership and the mindfulness, the meditation, the self-healing, but also realizing that those ideas, the non-aggression principle and others, they need to be applied to the earth as well, in the way that we grow our own food and the way that we just work with the land. And Rob was one of the first people that really got me to start thinking about that. And again, if you go to the website, search Rob Greenfield, you can see an interview I did with him just a few weeks ago, Rob Greenfield, on zero waste lifestyle, urban foraging, and veganism. And you can hear all about his recent adventures. He's now living in a tiny house in Orlando, Florida. He's foraging for all of his food for 1 year. And you can go back a little bit further to our first interview, Sustainable Adventure on the Path to Happiness, Health, and Freedom, where I sit down with Rob and kind of introduce his whole story. And this one here, too, is about him, called Talk to Neighbors, Not to Cops, inspired by a story that I saw Rob tell online about somebody stealing his bike. And instead of calling the cops, he, worked with the person and tried to communicate with them. So definitely a very inspiring human. And another person that, in the similar vein of environmentalism, permaculture, Stephen Brooks, who is the founder of Punta Mona, who I just interviewed last week. And I know that that interview is not the highest quality audio, but I just want to invite you to put on your headphones and to listen through it if you can, because it's worth your time. And Stephen is the founder of Punta Mona, where I just returned just last night after spending a few days, and I've got tons of video from there that we'll be releasing maybe in the next week or so once I get home, that you guys are going to love. Just Stephen leading a farm tour of Punta Mona and just explaining all these amazing plants that he's brought from all over the world to this off-grid community on the Pacific coast, or the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica, near Manzanilla, this really isolated community. You either have to like take a 20-minute boat ride or a 2-hour hike through the jungle to get there. And it's just this amazing community. You can check it out there on puntamona.org. He also helped found a second community called La Ica Via, and in a third community, Alegria, which is in the process of being built, and just actually I think it's already built, but they're just still working on it. Now they're working on like an elders village. So again, somebody who's taken the ideas of permaculture and working with nature and working with the plants and regenerative activism and sustainable activism to the next level. He's not just talking about it. He's not writing books about it or doing a YouTube channel. He's just doing it. And he's been doing it for 25 years. And I mean, when you hear the video that we have of him speaking, we'll put that on the YouTube channel for those who want to hear it. You're going to be very inspired, I hope. And he also is one of the founders of Envision Festival. And Envision Festival is where I'm actually headed today to go speak this weekend here in Costa Rica. And so just, I mean, this guy is just doing so many amazing things. Again, go to the website and you can see this video, Punta Mona Center, a permaculture paradise in Costa Rica. And this is back from December 2017 when I made my first trip to Punta Mona, and I interviewed a number of the volunteers there just so you could learn their stories and learn more about Punta Mona. And that was the first time Stephen invited me out there, and I was very thrilled to just go there again over the weekend. It was another short trip, but still, I mean, just walking through I mean, it's literally the jungle. You think of the jungle and you probably think of something you saw in a movie or saw in the Jungle Book, but it's nothing like being there in the jungle surrounded by so many different plants and animals and just life. It's just life. There's life all around you. And then not to mention the community who is working off grid and just you have to go. You have to make time to go there at some point in your life. And again, I mentioned this interview here. You can find this on the website. We just did this last week. Stephen Brooks, Permaculture, Envision Fest, and Building Community. I know the audio is not the best. I apologize. Stephen was at Envision in the jungle without headphones, and so we did our best. But if you put your headphones on and listen to it, and maybe squint a little bit, I think you can probably make it through it, and you would get some something worth your time. Now, the final person that really just popped up in my head because I'm sitting here thinking, wow, I just mentioned a whole lot of dudes that were inspiring to me. Um, and I have been inspired by quite a few women over the years, and I do have some videos planned. I think I did make one. Let me see if I can search it. I just thought of this, guys, so I'm searching it right now while I'm recording. Valtrine de Clare, though, she was a huge, huge inspiration. Here we go. And there's a video here that was made by one of our other contributors. Who is Valtrine de Clare? You can check that out. Um, and I plan to do more videos about her because she's just this amazing woman who was an American anarchist in the 1800s and had a really rough life and a difficult life, it seems, but also was just so powerful. And she wasn't like Emma Goldman. Emma Goldman is also inspirational to me. Emma Goldman, though, is known more as like this powerful speaker, and she could draw crowds. And Valtrine didn't really do that so much, but she did write essays that were really just well thought out and just good stuff, and both about women's issues as well as just generally anarchism and freedom in general. There's also another anarchist woman, Gertrude B. Kelly, who I have a video that I've been wanting to make for more than a year now, and I actually went and visited a park that was named after her in New York City and filmed a short video, and I'll probably share that with you guys soon because now I'm just remembering about it. Um, and there are definitely other women who have been inspirational to me. I'm not focused on the gender of a person whenever they inspire me. I just, if I read something and they've written or that they've done and it inspires me, then I'm inspired and I use it to add to my toolbox of information and to just grow my work. And I'm sure there are other people that I'm missing. I mean, there are lots of people who've inspired me over the years in maybe smaller ways, but these are the major people that I can say contributed to my spiritual views, contributed to my political views, my views on anarchism and solutions, as well as the environment, and kind of the whole rounded approach that I'm taking here. And then there are other people as well, like journalists that I've read about over the years that have inspired me to push on, journalists who have died. I'd say Michael Hastings, Danny Casolaro, Gary Webb. These are all three journalists who were more than likely suicided for the work that they're doing. And it is from them that I take inspiration and want to continue on and press on and actually expose the crimes that I'm trying to do. So, yeah, I think that's probably it for now, guys. I would love to hear your comments on who inspires you. Go ahead and post a list. And don't forget that once this YouTube chat ends, you can hop over to the Discord chat. We have a channel called Post YouTube Chat, and you can just continue talking about this video or whatever the heck you want. But I would love to hear who inspires you. Maybe you can make a response video to this and share it with the group in the Discord chat or however you feel like sharing that info, because I think it's important for us to know where we take our inspiration and our roots from. I never claim to have an original thought, honestly. I mean, I think I've come up with a few words and created some synthesis of other people's ideas, taking ideas from one person and mixing them together with somebody else's and in my own insights. But we are all constantly inspired by other people, and I'm thankful for that. And then finally, I'll say on the spiritual aspect, somebody who's a mentor or inspiring to me over the last few years is somebody who is not on YouTube and not on Facebook and doesn't have a channel, doesn't have books or anything like that. But his name is Daryl Brown, also known as Gray Eagle, and he is a Choctaw chief based in Hugo, Oklahoma, that I've learned a lot from over the past few years. And I look forward to seeing him again soon and continuing to learn more about Native traditions and reconnecting to that. So, yeah, I think that's it for now, guys. I appreciate your support. Again, if you want to support us via Patreon, $1 a month, it goes a long way. It helps me make documentaries like The Finders and Jeffrey Epstein and things like that. So until next time, hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, you are free. Peace.